few days ago, we saw an announcement. I saw a press release from the Member for Parliament for the Labour Party from Urquhart. You all know her well. Now, I can explain what this press release is all about. Why don't I ask her to explain what it's all about? And good morning.
Good morning, Wade, and good morning to everyone on King Island.
You're stuck in the car. You're not in traffic jams, are you?
No, I'm not in. I'm actually, excuse me, I'm sitting beside the Leven River in Ulverston, which is my hometown. I'm on my way to work, to do some work. I'm a little bit later starting this morning because you wanted to have a chat to me, so here I am.
Now, tell us about press release, something to do with the Freight Equalisation Scheme.
Yeah, so 1st of July was yesterday. Who can believe that we're halfway through the year already? It's frightening, isn't it? But of course, the 1st of July indicates that one of our election commitments was that we would provide some assistance, further assistance to companies, and that in terms of financial assistance for shippers. So that affects obviously King Island significantly, but also the mainland of Tasmania. So it's it will assist with a 25% increase to boost that scheme, which is fantastic because, I mean, it's one of the things the Freight Equalisation Scheme's been in for quite a number of years. And during the inquiry that we had last year, there was a lot of concerns from not so much shippers, but people at the end who receive the goods or those who send the goods about the cost and how it hadn't improved over a long period of time, and how the cost of shipping had increased exponentially. And so that committee then put together a list of recommendations, and we have adopted the recommendations, and one of those recommendations was that a comprehensive review would be undertaken. So, and also then when the election came around, we promised that we would put, I think the figure is about $90-something million, $98 million or something into that. And I mean, one of the things that we often talk about is, you know, the cost of getting goods from A to B. But of course, we can't build a bridge between, well, we probably could if we really wanted to, but I'm sure it'd be difficult. We can't build a bridge between the mainland Tasmania and King or Flinders Island, and we can't build a bridge between Tasmania and the rest of Australia. So the scheme is a way which we transport our goods. So putting things on a boat or a ship is the same really as in other states where they put things on the back of a truck and carry it. But of course, the cost is much less when you do that. And that's what the Tasmanian Freight Equalisation Scheme was designed to do. So Tasmanian businesses will now get a higher rate, and I'm just looking at the figures to make sure I don't muck up, a higher assistance rate from the Australian government of up to $1,070 per TEU, which is a 20-foot equivalent unit, which is basically a standard size shipping container under the scheme's domestic component. And then for goods being shipped from Tasmania to the world and being transferred from one ship to another at mainland ports, the flat rate of assistance will increase to $875 per TEU. And the same rate will apply to international goods being imported to Tasmania via a mainland port. And so I think it was 1976 when the Whitlam government introduced the Freight Equalisation Scheme, and that was expanded only in 2008 Wade, to both the Bass Strait Islands. So, you know, it's been going for a few years, but not as long as it has been generally. So we've committed, as I said, to a comprehensive review to make sure that it continues to support businesses.
Well, it's of course that there will be more reviews and more happening in the coming months. Because, for example, if I look at the press release, what I find interesting is that building and building construction materials, for example, are exempt from the Freight Equalisation Scheme. Then, on the other hand, if I bring timber from Tasmania to the mainland, I do get
That's right.
the scheme applied, which is then in a way giving advantage too, isn't it? Because, for example, we have a business here, Besties. They bring all their timber from Melbourne because they got a good deal there. They get nothing.
Yep.
Whilst if they would bring it in from Tasmania, they will get some sort of compensation. But they've already told me for them the pricing, it doesn't even make difference or make sense. So
Yep.
that's always going to be the battle, isn't it?
That's right. And I think that's part of the review process. We'll look at a number of those factors. And, we heard some crazy stuff through the review, through the inquiry, which has now been fed into the review. It's really about making it fit for the future. And, a lot of people have been a little bit critical and saying, oh, why do we need another review? Well, really, there has not been a review that I'm aware of the TFES over many, many years. And to be able to make sure it's a really comprehensive scheme. I think it's difficult for people who work within it all the time. For us on the outside who don't have to manage and operate it every day, it's even more difficult to try and get to understand. But I think the issue really is that it does need to be brought up to a level of being fit for purpose, and the current system isn't. And to look at such a comprehensive sort of system, you need to have a proper review to make sure that we hear from experts and there are people doing it that have knowledge around, what the effects are and what the benefits are and what the problems are with it. So I'm really looking forward to the review. And I think certainly in my discussions with the Minister, Catherine King, she's really keen to get the review up and running. And that was part of the commitment that we gave to get it done as quickly as we can, but also to make sure that we don't, leave any stone unturned.
Now, last year, together with Tammy Tyrrell, the senator, independent senator, you led the inquiry into this whole happening. Does this mean now that both of you will also be part, you think, later this year of the review committee when it's looked at again and further looked into, or you done your job and that's it?
Yeah, well, I think we've done our job on the committee, absolutely. But I think the issue will be that it's going to be, I think, an independent review. So it will be independent of government. So I think to answer your question is we won't be part of it because I think there needs to be independent reviewers. There needs to be, people who I said are experts and have knowledge around these things, far more than what I or anyone else does who sits in the parliament. And I think that's going to be an important factor in making sure that, when the review is commencing, that we get it done as soon as possible. And I know the Minister has said she wants to get it done as soon as possible. But we do need to make sure that we do it properly. We don't want a half-hearted sort of attempt at doing this. But I don't see that myself or, in fact, Tammy are experts in it. We want to make sure that it is independent so it's looked at properly.
And Urquhart, we thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Wade, and I hope to catch up with everyone. I think around the 16th of July I'll be over on the island, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Now, that was the Member for Parliament for the Labour Party, Anne Urquhart. The chair of the inquiry, of course, is Tammy Tyrrell, the independent senator. We spoke to her a while ago. Let's talk to Tammy again and see what her side of thoughts is on all of this. Tammy, welcome again.
Hi, thanks for having me. I love coming to King Island, even if it's virtually. But
well, you're here, Tammy. Okay. We have this 25% increase in the Freight Equalisation Scheme just announced. Government, we're all happy now?
No. We're not happy, but we're not sad that we got the 25% increase either. 25% increase is going to be huge for the businesses on the islands. But the problem is that the 25% probably isn't going to hit the people on the islands because it's not going to impact on what they utilise freight for. So as we've talked about before, building products aren't covered under it. Only agricultural products are covered by it. The bakery on King Island, they have to get stuff in 2 to 3 months in advance because you never know when the barge is going to get there. You never know when you're going to have bad weather, et cetera, et cetera. So the 25% is great, but I have doubts that it's not going to work for the people on the islands.
Well, I've been talking to a number of people over the last few days, Tammy, and I'll run you through a couple of examples here. That I talked to a business, and there's quite a few on the island that work like that. They tell me that they regularly bring in containers from the mainland, sometimes from Tassie, and most of those containers, because being a small population here also, the containers are sort of a mix
Yeah.
of different goods and whatever. And when I asked them about the refund, and they said, well, I have to go through the whole manifest, then I have to check everything, what is eligible, what is not. And then after a day's work, I might end up with a rebate of $50. I'm not doing it. It's just not
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, and that's a common thread even on the mainland of Tasmania to the islands, is that there's lots of businesses and industries that do the same thing. They have a pallet where they've got combined goods, and it's not worth the administration time. And I know that you've got a great organisation on King Island that has been helping people to do it, Elders, I believe it is, and they've been really good. They've been actually spending the time and the energy in doing it for other people, but that's taking time out of their business in it, as well. And it's very frustrating the way that the administration side of the scheme is ruining people's chances to actually put money back in their pockets, because the money is there to equalise the distance between the mainland of Tasmania and the big island up to the north, between the islands in between. And it's not doing it, and it's frustrating.
Well, yeah, it's even like talking with some farmers here where I ask, well, you get so much per head per cattle that you bring across, and you get your rebates. And even they say to me, mate, quite often we don't even bother, because by the time you went through that website and all the
Yeah.
things and what you have to do, it's not worth it.
Yeah, but also with the beef industry on the island, when I was over there, we had a round table, and they were there. They were saying that they hadn't had an increase in 12 years. So they were getting exactly the same amount 12 years ago as to this year. And like the 25% increase, that's great, but they're still behind the eight ball. So it's gone up 25%, and they were like $400 or $500 down every year that they were transporting cattle to the mainland. This 25%, it's not even touching the sides. They're still behind the eight ball. It's not
Well,
good.
another example is then, I don't want to call it double dipping, but it's like company ABC in Tasmania buys fertilizer from company XYZ in Victoria. They claim a rebate.
Yeah.
Then they sell to the farmer here on King Island. Then the farmer claims a rebate. So it's almost like a double whammy. I'm surprised that they allow that.
But what happens if the product's been in Australia or been produced for the outside of the time frame that you can claim the rebate? Then you're behind the eight ball there as well. It's like, it's not double dipping though, isn't it? It's getting what you're actually entitled to. And that's what the Freight Equalisation Scheme is there for, is to equalise stuff. And we shouldn't be grateful that they're actually giving us what they're owed. And what makes it even worse is sometimes if you have gone through the time and energy to put the claim in, you're waiting bloody ages to get the money back, between 3 and 6 months. And then if they want to do a review of it or audit it, they will hold on to that money and then go through all your records to make sure that you're not lying to them. Like, why would you? It's taken you a long time to do the application. And then they're holding you up. And they're also, can you tell them a little bit pissed about it? They're making you redo the admin every month, even though the month before the claim is exactly the same. Why? It's administrative rubbish and red tape that's not required. If you've got the same claim every month over a 12-month period, why do you have to recreate the wheel every single time? They need to make it easier. I don't know, Wade. It's not rocket science, is it?
Then you have building and construction materials are not part of the Freight Equalisation Scheme. Agriculture is. Now you have a farmer that goes to our local, let's call it Bunnings, which we don't have, and he says, I need 100 fencing poles just for the property to do a bit of fencing.
Yep.
Now those poles, they can claim back. But if that same farmer goes to that same Bunnings and says, I need half a container of timber because I want to build a shed on the farm, Does he get it back? He doesn't get it back. What
No.
does?
It,
I
it,
don't.
it's bonkers, isn't it? And like, I know that getting product to the island, because there's a lot of places on the islands that need maintenance. Like, I know on Flinders, some of the houses over there, they're waiting on product to get to the island, and even on King Island, you can't get siding, you can't get any beams over, you can't get trusses, because what happens if the boat can't get in? But why would you, when you're not even going to get the Freight Equalisation Scheme to get the product across there? Why are you going to spend all that money? Because it's expensive to get the equipment, because we've got shortages as well. But how much is it going to cost you, an arm and a leg plus probably your firstborn child, to get it across the piece of water? And then what happens if it doesn't turn up? What are you going to do? You excuse the technical term, but you're buggered either way, aren't you, really?
Well, talking to some of the builders here, and from their experience, building a house on King Island, and I'm sure Flinders the same, is in materials 30% dearer than, say, in mainland Tasmania, just
Yeah.
because of all the transport and all the cost. So, sorry, government, isn't this, if we want to build houses and we're pushing to build houses, isn't this a bit that should be definitely added to the scheme, and you do get money back for bringing all the building materials in?
But why can't I just give you due consideration? You're part of Australia. You're part of Tasmania. Why are you separated and made to feel less because of where you are? You are deserving of consideration, and the federal government keeps on pushing you to the side, and I think that's rubbish. And that's why it's important there's people like politicians that are independent and a little bit lippy outside of mainstream are important, because we don't care about political colour. We care about the people that we're here to represent. And that's why I brought up the Freight Equalisation Scheme as a concern. Both Blue and Red previously could have done these changes and made it more fair and equitable before this last election. But it took me to bring it up to get them to the party. And you know what? I don't think that's fair. But you know what? They're doing something now, so that's good. But we're going to have a review, Wade. How do you feel about a review? Do you want another review? I don't particularly want another review.
Well, it's a little bit like reviewing, and the way the simple journalist looks at it is like, okay, say you got a road distance, or if you could drive between here and King Island and Tassie of 200 kilometers. Now, okay, you have that 200 kilometers. A road trip would cost an X amount of money, because we have sea trips. There's a difference in that money. Now, instead of saying you get 800 and whatever dollars for a 20 TEU, so a 20-foot container in a rebate, that's now going to be 1,200 and whatever. Why not lower that and say we covered that difference between road transport and sea transport for anything that goes on and off both islands, Flinders and King. And then you have a fair deal with Annie, because otherwise other companies in Tasmania might say, hey, this is not fair, they get more than us. But at least you have then an even keel, isn't it?
I'm not going to argue with you, Wade, because I actually agree. But you know what? We need to get that idea in front of the review board, or whoever's going to be doing that, which the Labor haven't actually come out and said yet. But trust me, I'm not going to let this go. I'm actually going to pursue this, and I'm going to see if I can be a part of the review as well, so as that the voices of the people on King Island are heard properly, and that they're heard without the political twist on it, so to speak. I want to make sure that Flinders Island and King Island can get the stuff that they need in good time and at a fair price. I know one of the things that came out at the Senate inquiry that we had was that people on mainland Tasmania and mainland Australia, they were like flabbergasted that you're paying like exorbitant amounts of money just for a Dare coffee, which every tradie anywhere falls in love with. But what are you paying? You're paying between 15 and 20 bucks for a 2-litre carton of Dare coffee, which we see as a staple. Well, I don't like sweet coffee. And it's ridiculous. And then you transpose that from your groceries to, like you said, building products and agricultural products, but shipping your products across the water, your beef, your cheese, anything, you need to be taken into consideration. You deserve consideration, and you need to get a fair deal.
Now, in reality, this is now in place as of the 1st of July, and for the next 2 years, so we see what happens in 2 years' time. You were the chair of the inquiry. Is government informing you, or has informed you with further reviews and further questions answered, or where are we?
Yeah, the tragic thing is that we had the election and nothing has been happening since. We're blessed in that we go back to Parliament on the 22nd of July, and it's going to be one of my priorities to make sure that I follow this up and make sure that it gets dealt with, because I give a damn about the people of Tasmania, and I'm not worried about a lot of the stuff that the mainland senators and lower house members are worried about. I only care about Tasmanians, and them getting fair dealings is what I'm about. So I'm going to be making sure that I keep on track of it, and I'm going to try and be part of the review. I don't know if they'll allow me to, Wade, but you know what? Talk to your local member and see if Tammy Tyrrell, Independent Senator for Tasmania, can be on the review panel. That'd be cool.
And I'm sure it will be continued, Tammy, don't you think?
Oh, stand by. It's not over yet. I'm not much of a singer, but when I start singing, we'll know that it's over.
Well, we're going to play a song for you then very soon, Tammy Tyrrell. We thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you for having me, and I do appreciate it. And I'll come back in real life soon, all right?